Believe it or not, there are people who know a lot about guns who do actually choose to aim this way, and they get really good results by doing it.
We're pulling out the clicky. And while I've no doubt garnered your attention,
and yes, I made this video as an excuse to play Bone Lab. Don't you judge me. So with the launch of the new game mode, a lot of people are going back and they're playing Resident Evil 9, but I actually wanted to take this time to answer a question that I've had actually since the game launched. That was the fact that when you right click, you don't use the iron sights. For whatever reason, Grace and Leon choose to have the gun below their eye line and just point it and like slightly tilt it upwards. But you can see that they do this with literally every gun in the game, whether it's the handgun, the shotguns, the rifles, every gun in the game. For whatever reason, they opt to do this. Now, is there a practical reason for why Leon and Grace would ever hold their handguns this way, or are they just fucking idiots? The interesting thing about this that I found in my research is that this is based on an actual technique used in real life by firearms experts. Believe it or not, there are people who know a lot about guns who do actually choose to aim this way, and they get really good results by doing it. So that's what I plan to explain to you guys today. I did the research on this, I checked it out and tried it myself, and it turns out there's method to the madness. What makes this even more interesting is that the handguns that Grace and Leon use aren't even known to have particularly bad iron sights. So they're based off of real guns. The SNS M232 is actually based off of the SIG P232. This was before it was discontinued, I should say. This was a pretty decently popular concealed carry handgun for women who, you know, they don't have pockets, so they need something a little smaller, but still at least pack somewhat of a punch as opposed to a 22. I say that like if you're gonna get hit by a 380, your whole body's just gonna disintegrate. Like, that's not true, but you know, it's better than 22. So the handgun that Leon is using, the alligator snapper, is actually based off of a SIG P320, also designated the M17 by the United States military. This is the official handgun of the United States military, and for better or for worse, there's a controversy surrounding this gun that I'm not going to get into in this video. Just know it's really, really funny that Leon has this gun in particular. If you want to Google it, you're more than welcome to, but please do it like after this video. I want the watch time. Don't worry, I'll give you a reminder. Now, what makes Leon's handgun in particular really interesting is that the SIG P320 actually has really good iron sights out of the box. What makes it even funnier is somebody went ahead and took those already pretty good iron sights and modified them with aftermarket night sights that you can see those green dots on them right there. So somebody took the effort to give Leon really, really good iron sights, and yet he doesn't use them, which is extremely hilarious to me.
So some of you might be wondering, why would I ever aim the way that they aim in Resident Evil 9? Well, that's because of a technique called point shooting. And it's very relevant that we're pointing at this random innocuous wall. And that's because I want to follow the 4 firearm safety rules. There's absolutely nobody behind these walls. We're pulling out the clicky. So I am treating this like it's loaded, even though I know absolutely sure it is not. And while I've no doubt garnered your attention, I would like to give a little bit of a PSA. You know, there are 400 million guns in this country. There's actually more guns than there are people. So it's really important that whether you like guns or not, you're familiar with how to unload a handgun, because it might actually save your life someday. So I'm going to quickly demonstrate that super fast. So I've got my magazine. Don't worry, I'm never going to put my finger on the trigger during this demonstration. So what's going on is I'm going to slide it in like this. If you ever want to take this out, there's a button on the side that you can hit with your thumb. Just press that. That ejects the magazine. But wait, you're not done. There might be a round in the chamber. So first of all, what you want to do is you want to pull on this really quick. Do it a few times until you see a bullet casing eject out of the side. And then if you want to double check, you can hold down on these front serrations right here. Pull down a little bit. See if you can see some gold or gray metal in there. If you don't, you should be good. If you want to make absolutely sure, there is a dedicated way to check. So you can pull back here on the side, make sure your big meaty arm doesn't get in front of the barrel. Hold this slide lock up, pull it backwards until that falls into place. This is going to guarantee that the slide stays back while you manipulate with it. So this way you can actually look inside and visually inspect, see if there's anything inside. I don't see anything. I'm going to look away. Look back into it, see if a bullet magically appears in there. Then just for extra insurance, I'm going to go ahead and push my finger in there, make sure I don't feel a bullet. anywhere inside of there. This is the way I guarantee every gun that I use is safe. And then if you ever want to retract it afterwards, you press down on this paddle, and there you go. One of the huge downsides of firing a pistol conventionally is you have to raise the pistol up and align the sights correctly until you get a clear sight picture. Unfortunately, this takes some amount of time. Like, for example, if I was going to do this super quickly, say somebody's attacking me right now, I'd have to pull it up, lift it, and then look at how many micro adjustments I had to make just to get that clear picture. So if it takes you 5 to 6 seconds to raise your handgun and be ready to fire, most firearm engagements end at the 3 to 4 second mark. So you'd probably be dead. Safe to say. That's where point shooting comes into play. A lot of people who focus on self-defense protection specifically like to do a lot of point shooting practice. That's where you instinctually aim without the sights of the gun. So you imagine there's a laser coming out of the barrel, and imagine where that laser's landing, and you basically aim with instinct. Now, this is less accurate unless you've had a lot of practice with it. As a matter of fact, point shooting is how I aim when I play VR games, and that's because I play on a Quest 2. So the lenses on the Quest 2 suck major ass. And unfortunately, as a result of that, I can't clearly see the iron sights when I'm playing VR. So a lot of the time, I actually resort to point shooting like this in order to aim. I point shoot in VR pretty often, and I still hit my shots like pretty good. So that's not to dismiss point shooting. That's not to say one is objectively better than the other. It depends. Like a lot of things in life, it depends on what's happening, you know, how you wish to train. The most important part is get some training, dude. Make sure you practice. You never want to do this like on a whim. You never want to YOLO either form of aiming with these guns, because it can be super dangerous. So please, the most important thing you can do is get trained with them. But you can also just improve your draw speed, and one of the ways to improve that is by doing build drills. That involves quickly taking the handgun out of your holster, getting ready to fire as soon as possible, pressing the trigger 6 times, landing 6 shots as accurately as you can. Some people do dry fire practice of the same thing, so without any ammunition inside of the gun whatsoever, they'll pull it out of their holster, find an aiming reference point, and then just pull the trigger. But it builds up your muscle memory so that you can get that more accurate point of reference for aiming quicker. Regardless of which way that you do it, either way, it's going to take a lot of training and practice. You know, you never want to just do this on a whim. So I can't stress this enough. Train, get some training. But now you know why they aim like this in Resident Evil 9.
Now, I have to applaud Capcom for actually taking the time to research stuff like this and implementing it into the game in a realistic way. Unfortunately, the only place where I really need to critique it is with Grace. Grace doesn't strike me as a character who would point shoot. She strikes me as a character who would rely on the iron sights to a fault. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, Grace works for the FBI, therefore, of course, she's comfortable with a handgun. The reality of the situation is, and I have some ex-military and ex-law enforcement who will probably agree with me on this. Just because you're part of an organization doesn't make you an immediate expert at using guns. I have seen many instances where police don't even know how to press check a pistol. They don't even know how to check if it's loaded. They barely know how to reload it. You know, there's that infamous clip of the Trump assassination with the Secret Service worker. She doesn't know how to holster the fucking thing. Just because you have a job where guns are inevitably a part of your everyday life, it doesn't necessarily make you an expert at them. By the way, if you've been enjoying this video so far, please consider giving it a like and a subscribe, as well as also get the fuck out of my face so I can thank our members. Our members are the people who are funding these videos. If you want to become a member, you can start for as low as $1. Jesus fucking Christ. Ranges from $1 going up to 20. At the $20 tier, you can pay me to take a shot of whiskey on stream. So there's some fun stuff in store. Now, do I think more games should do this? You know, it's kind of hit or miss. I really like the attention to detail and immersion, and it better solidifies that Leon and Grace know what they're doing, despite, again, how stupid it might look to the average person. But also, at the same time, I feel like it kind of ruins Grace's character a tiny bit. For Leon's character, it actually makes a lot of sense. He's been doing this for over 30 years, so it makes way too much sense that he would point shoot like this. I mean, he has all the instinct he could ever ask for. immersion aside, there's also some gameplay reasons why Capcom might have opted to do this. The most importantly is to obscure your vision as least as possible. They still want to have the gun on screen to communicate to the player that they're aiming down sights, but by having it on the right hand side, let's say an enemy is coming from my right and I happen to be like aiming down, let's say I'm shooting somebody right here, I'm not going to be able to see this guy coming from my right hand side. Or let's just say in the case of Resident Evil in particular, you know, I might be aiming my gun, shooting at something else, and all of a sudden my gun is in the middle of the screen and I'm obscuring this body that's below me. I have no idea that that body's waking up if I don't have my headphones on or anything like that. But hey, now you guys know why they do it. It's not just them being incredibly fucking stupid. By the way, here's your reminder to Google the SIG P320 shit. I told you I remind you, dude.